there's not that many people I feel in America who believe that there should be no abortions under any circumstance, right? I think most people feel, yeah, it's fine under some circumstance. But the problem is there's, people who are like, yeah, they should be under any circumstance up until whatever, 9 months or whatever the fuck, 3 trimesters, whatever. Like there's people who you go, and then there's other people like, I would say myself, I'm like, yeah, definitely for abortion. 100% for abortion. Should you be able to have an abortion when the baby's 8 months old? Probably not. That seems a lot. That seems like we've but there are people who are legit like, yeah, as long as that baby is inside of that woman, that's not for you to decide. And this is how this becomes a trickier subject, because some people are like, well, my cutoff is 6 months. And then some people are like, my cutoff is 5 months. But it's an interesting thing. And it actually reminded me of when the whole abortion thing happened, that right when I moved to New York, I was at this comedy show at the Knitting Factory, which is in Brooklyn. It's like this super, like Brooklyn-y, left-wing, very like, I don't want to say like communist, but you know what I mean? Like it's super out there, like super woke. And it was a pretty female heavy lineup, and I was there, and there was this girl on stage doing a joke about how she's like, yeah, I got an abortion recently. And she got like not a standing ovation, but people were really cheering her on, like a good for you type of thing. And now I don't think you should be ashamed of getting an abortion unless it's, I don't know, 9 months in or 8 months in, or if it's like you find out the race of the baby is wrong. You're like, oh, I don't want this race baby, I want to abort it. You should be ashamed of that. Or maybe the sex is wrong or whatever, stuff like that. But like, it's also not something you should be proud of, in my opinion. It should just be something that happened. It's like I don't want to steal Louis C.K.'s thing, but like, cause he had a great bit about it in his 2017 special, but like, it should be like taking a shit. You should be pretty like indifferent. It is. It's just the thing that had to happen. Right. But yeah, there are really people who wear this like, yeah, I got an abortion, good for me. And you're like, no, you should definitely try to avoid needing to get an abortion. It should really be like you should be allowed to get it, but it should definitely be like a last ditch effort, last case scenario kind of thing. But yeah, and with this whole, Roe v. Wade getting struck down, and then it getting leaked, which is, I guess, pretty crazy. Like, there's still like, and people and all my friends who live in New York are like, this is worst thing that's ever happened. It's like, this doesn't affect you. Everybody in blue states, you're fine. You can still get all the abortions you want. Abortions for everybody. It's essentially just poor people in conservative states that are going to be fucked, because, the wealthy people in conservative states will just travel to get the abortions. So all you're really doing is burdening, the kind of economically lowest and most disadvantaged portion of the population with kids that they don't want. And I don't think the people who are making these laws want these kids to really exist either. It kind of, I don't really get, because, there's a lot of conspiracies, and we talk about conspiracies on the podcast. And if you have an idea of why you think this, because I'm sure there's many thoughts about it, call in, let me know what you think. Because yeah, I don't get it. I know that from a Constitution angle, I've been reading about this. I've been boning up on the Constitution, that I guess they're saying, well, look, it's not in the Constitution, so it should have just never been. It should just be a states' right thing to begin with. That's what it should be. It should always be a states' right issue. States should decide. Shouldn't be a federal issue because it's not in the Constitution. But then I'm like, from what I understand, other things are not in the Constitution that are law. So I don't know if it's totally consistent, but maybe it's just this is the most pressing issue. I don't know. I'm sure people who are listening to this know more than I, so please call in and explain it to me, because I don't. And then I'll say one thing, because there are people, and this is kind of a bit of a dark story, and I apologize in advance. If I was at that show in Brooklyn, I would say trigger warning. But so, there are people who believe there should be no abortion under any circumstance. And I was listening to the radio today, this conservative radio, and they were kind of like, if there's like a rape, there's a rape or whatever, and there's a baby, that baby should not be aborted. That baby should be, had and then adopted and allowed to live like a life or whatever, abortion should not be allowed. And people do believe that even under a rape scenario, you should not be allowed. But, and I'll say this, so a very close friend of mine, one of my closest friends, this was his scenario. I didn't find out until later, but so because I knew he was adopted. I had always known he was adopted. And what happened is his biological father was in prison for raping his mother. His biological father raped his biological mother. She had him. I don't think she wasn't allowed to have him. She just, I guess, chose to, had him, put him up for adoption. Okay. And I didn't know about this. He kind of had like a darkness to him. But I only learned about this like later, but that this was his kind of case. And, I can only imagine, what kind of like, just how that weighs over you, knowing that like, your biological father was a rapist who raped your mother, and he's in jail for that. But anyways, and sorry to be kind of dark, but he killed himself. My friend killed himself, like 8 years ago. And so my point is, you can ban an abortion, but sometimes that person will abort themselves. So, you can delay it. You can delay it. You can maybe say not 9 months, but maybe that's what they want. They want to leave it up to the person. But anyways, I know that was kind of fucked up.